Hey book buddies, I'm Eric from Lonesome Reader. Today I'm making a video about this year's Goldsmiths Prize shortlist because it's one of my favorite book prizes, and last night I was lucky enough to see Ali Smith give the annual New Statesman Goldsmiths Prize lecture, where the shortlist for the prize was also announced. It was so fun and inspiring, as always, hearing Ali Smith talk. If you ever get the chance to see her read or give a talk, like honestly, go. It is so worth it. She is so rambunctious and inspiring and just infectiously delightful. So I went along and basked in her sunshine, and then afterwards the writer Naomi Wood, who's the chair of judges for this year's prize, announced the shortlist. Now, if you don't know, the Goldsmiths Prize was started in 2013 by Goldsmiths, which is a university in South London, and the prize seeks to celebrate creative daring, reward fiction that breaks the mold, and extends the possibilities of the novel form. Honestly, if you want to tap into what is the most cutting-edge fiction today, this is the prize to watch. Obviously, like all prizes, it's subjective. This isn't a definitive list of all the exciting things that are happening in fiction today, but it gives you a good guideline. I personally love fiction that plays with form and finds innovative ways to convey style and content. I think a lot of people are put off by fiction that's considered experimental because they think it's sort of like too pretentious or too like willfully obtuse. And some of it honestly is. I mean, I think when experimental fiction goes wrong, it's sort of like a comedy act. Like when it goes wrong, it goes really wrong, as I believe it has with one of the titles on this shortlist. But experimental fiction also has the potential to break down barriers and get to meaning and ideas that so-called conventional fiction can't. Ali Smith wonderfully describes this process here, so I'll give you a little snippet of her speech.
And there are the novels that that ask us rather to do a lot or even just a little of the footwork too. Everyone in this room will know about the picking up of a novel, hitting its first pages as if hitting a brick wall, but once you've committed, that's you climbing over or knocking a door or a window through that wall, and soon you are waltzing through any wall you like.
I could just listen to Ali for hours and hours, but I think she makes like a good point that working your way through new structures in fiction and getting at what's really going on behind there can be so much more rewarding. And sometimes it better helps us prepare for life, I think, because, you know, in life, like it just continuously throws up barriers in front of you that you have to get through. So this prize in particular has set an impressive standard because in the 5 years that it's been running, there's been some amazing winners. From Eimear McBride's novel A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing in 2013, which seemed to like invent this wild and beautiful new form of subconscious speech, to Ali Smith's novel How to Be Both in 2014, which is a novel in 2 parts that can be switched around to make entirely new meanings, to Kevin Barry's novel Beatlebone in 2015, which fictionalizes a journey that John Lennon took across Ireland, where he tried to find this island that he could found an arts community on, to last year's winner Mike McCormack for his novel Solar Bones, which cuts out all punctuation to show one long stream continuous thought of this man reflecting on his life and the state of Ireland. It's funny how the last 2 winners were both Irishmen who both used the word bone in the titles of their novels. Those Irish can be so morbid, but it's all really fun, exciting, fascinating new fiction. And if you want to know more of my thoughts about these books or any of the books shortlisted on this year's prize that I've read, I'll put links to my full reviews to them below if you click show more. Now for this year's prize there are 6 novels that are shortlisted. I've read 4 out of the 6. I'll talk about the ones that I've read and that I loved the most before I get to the one that I actually loathed. First, Sara Baume's A Line Made by Walking. This is a novel that shows an extreme case of someone who's very lonely, depressed, who finds it very difficult to integrate into normal mainstream society. It's the tale of a woman who's just left university and she becomes quite a recluse. She goes to live in her late grandmother's bungalow where she thrives most, where she's making art by taking photographs of dead animals. As well as recording her daily life and artistic process, this novel also shows those actual photos where it reproduces them on the page. So she travels around the countryside and she comes across these animals like roadkill or animals that died naturally, and she records their deaths in these photos. And so you're confronted on the page with what she's actually seen. And here's the thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in America, when this book was published, the photos were actually left out, which is very odd. I guess they thought it would be too morbid, but in any case, I thought this was a really powerful novel about a marginalized individual who can't really submit to institutionalized forms of belief like psychiatry or religion, and so instead she believes in the redeeming power of art. Next, Nicola Barker's novel Happy, where the A is actually in parentheses. The A is blocked out as such because this narrative is a stream created by the character called Mira A, a woman who lives in a post-apocalyptic society. Here, civilization has been almost completely wiped out, but it's been restarted and stabilized because the entire population has been plugged into this communal stream of consciousness, which ensures that everyone exists in this perpetual state of happiness. Mira A is a musician who finds herself unconsciously questioning and rebelling against this by writing her own narrative, and that's where things go really wrong. The text really goes disjointed and wild on the page, as you can see here, where it just becomes broken. Nicola Barker actually suggests at the beginning of the book that you should be listening to a Paraguayan guitarist named Agustin Barrios while you're reading this text. It's a big, wild ride, but I think it says something really powerful about our modern online lives. So, Jon McGregor's Reservoir 13. This novel was also longlisted for this year's Booker Prize, and like I said in my previous video about that long list, I had quite a lot of trouble with this novel at first. It's the story of how 13-year-old Rebecca goes missing from her village one evening and is believed to have been lost in one of the local reservoirs. It follows village life for many years after her disappearance, all the small and big details of all the residents of the village, a really large cast of characters, as well as lots of changes in the natural environment. So what I found really difficult was staying engaged, reading about all these small details without feeling like I ever really got to know the characters until quite late on in the novel. It was a bit of a slog, but once I got there and was able to reflect back on what I read, I started to find it so powerful, and it made me want to read it again now that I know the characters more intimately. So as a depiction of community life and the flow of time in a community, and how at any time we can really be, as like individuals, thrown out of that cycle and that flow of time within a community. I mean, in that way it is so powerful and moving. Now, Gwendolyn Riley's First Love. I've already knocked this book so much when it was shortlisted for this year's Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction. If you want, you can go and watch my video with Anna, where I really lay into it. The fact that it keeps getting so much prize attention, and that people who I really respect and who've read it and got a lot out of it, I mean, that says to me that there must be really things in this novel that I'm just not getting. Why do you keep getting nominated? Go away! Why are you plaguing me? It's the story of a woman who is a writer in a horrible marriage with a husband who does horrible things to her, and just about everyone is horrible. Now, I don't mind that. The world can be horrible. What I really hated about this book was how withholding it felt. I couldn't get a sense of what brought any of these characters to this state, except maybe the character of the mother, who I was compelled by, even though she is a horrible person as well. So, I don't know. Make up your own mind. If you love it, please let me know in the comments below. I'd really like to understand what's so great about it. It's short. It's got that going for it. Anyway, I like that this prize throws in a book that I can get really bitchy about. I haven't read Will Self's novel Phone yet. I have read his fiction in the past, like not a lot, but what I have read of his I've liked, especially his novel How the Dead Live. He's a well-known novelist, always pushing limits and spouting off in a wonderful way. Apparently Phone is actually the third part in Self's modernist trilogy. It's about 4 characters all chronically attached to their phones and one character who is hilariously inept at using his phone. It's also about the chaos of post-war Iraq. Sounds like it's fascinating and I'm eager to read it. And I also keep hoping that one day I'll just like bump into Will Self, because like I think he lives around in my area of South London, and apparently he likes to go for walks late at night, and sometimes I go out walking late at night too. So I keep hoping that like one day I'll just like bump into him. I think it would be a really romantic and weird encounter. And finally, Plain Possum by Kevin Davey, a novel that I knew nothing about before this prize. The best thing about book prizes is that they almost always bring to my attention a book or books that I've never heard of and wouldn't have encountered otherwise. It's a cute title, and hilariously the publisher is called Press, like it's actually spelt From what I've read, it's a comic and absurd tale about T.S. Eliot on the run from the police and hiding out in a hotel. And the text has influences from The Wasteland, but also popular songs and films from the time period, as well as working like a detective fiction. So it sounds like a really fascinating mashup of styles. I can't wait to go out and buy a copy this weekend. So those are the 6 novels shortlisted for the prize. And to give you a bit more of a taste about why the judges chose them, I'll show you the clip of Naomi Wood when she's announcing the prize and describing what the judges found so exciting about these books.
The 3 other judges on the Goldsmiths Prize panel, Kevin Barry, A.L. Kennedy and Tracy Thorne and I, have read variously through what a novel can do. Experimentations in different worlds, employing different approaches to the theme of innovation in fiction, which this prize handsomely rewards. Our 6 shortlisted books offer resistance to the received idea of how a novel might be written, as well as offering a different model of how we might be asked to read. Our shortlisted books breach new ground in terms of formal technique in character, perspective, voice, typography, time, continuity, and structure, many more things. And so there is a liberty and a wildness to our shortlisted novels, which hopefully provokes in the reader a joyful inquiry about just what a novel might do. In all of our books, we looked for formal innovation as the prize rewards, but books that also gave a great deal of pleasure in their reading. And we are sure that if you pick up one of these shortlisted novels, you will find both these twins. So, in no particular order, alphabetically, but that is a particular order. Lecturer extraordinaire. The shortlisted books for the 2017 Goldsmiths Prize are, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hippie, by Nicola Barker, A Line Made by Walking, Playing Possum by Kevin Davey, Reservoir 13 by Jon McGregor, Gwendolyn Riley's First Love. Finally, on our 6th book, we have Will Self's Firm. That's all 6. Thank you very much for coming.
So there you go. Have you read any of these books, or are you interested in reading any of them now? Do you like experimental fiction in general? What would you say is the most experimental book that you've ever read? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you, as always. Have an excellent weekend, and happy reading, everyone.